Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I am your humble host, David, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers, and I greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite Creator. And I continue to pray each and every day that each and every one of you will learn how to accept and receive the healing, the knowledge, and the wisdom of the universe. And I continue to pray that each and every day you will learn how to reject the chaos that comes into your lives and that you will be able to stay focused on your own, who you are spiritually, and keep your wits about you. So, I was being a little slow. I ran out of cigarettes 2 days ago, which is okay, but I have tobacco. And I was going to roll one before I got online, and I thought, forget about it. Let me go ahead and say hello to everybody. And here's an interesting thing about the topic for tonight, and I'm going to tell it as a story, and I am the narrator, and possibly a character in this story. Okay, and it's it takes into account a lot of things that we already sort of know, that the government's got a secret space program, and we're going to we all know that frequencies can change brain patterns. I know from my own experience with epilepsy and neurologist, that flashing lights and so forth can trigger some very abnormal effects on certain people, especially when certain drugs and medications are taken. Okay, so I have personal experience in some of these real world things that are going to be included in with this story. Okay, so now I'm telling this as a story because at the end of it, I'll explain why. All right. So, and you can maybe sort of guess that maybe some of these things are already here, and maybe this is what their plan is. But anyway, I don't want to say that now. We'll save that to the end, and you can draw your own conclusion. But this is just a sci-fi story, maybe. To me, it has opened a door into the twilight zone. Like, I know these people have been up to something, but then to receive certain information and kind of see where things are oddly leaning, you have to ask yourself, is this science fiction or what? Just, we are in the twilight zone. We can look at each other and our avatars and say, absolutely, we can look at each other and say, you feel something weird going on? So hi, Delaney, Project Skyfalls, Pamela, Teresa, Candy Apple, Brian, howdy. Good to see you. Project Skyfalls, okay. So and I think Ice Station Z was on. So, but he may have dropped out to go to sleep, but we'll say hello to him anyway, or them. I'm not sure it's a he. Sometimes I get confused. You don't really know about a gender. So anyway, but so let me start up the story and sort of get into character, as it were, and I'm going to tell the story as a what if. Okay, so and I'm going to spread this. It's going to include several different areas of science. So bear with me. Maybe this will be an interesting little story. So as our story opens, Hawkeye Two Feathers, the detective, has been on the search for the truth about what seems to be going on behind the scenes. There's a lot of activity in science. There's a lot of activity in the spiritual warfare area. There's a lot of things going on with Luciferianism and demonology and so forth to be acceptable in our society. with some statues being removed and statues of Baphomet being raised. Transgender people telling stories to the children in the libraries, and political things that has just gotten to the point where now this is a story. Okay, this is a story. So as Hawkeye Two Feathers, the detective, started looking into things, a client came to him and said, "My daughter has just had a vaccination, and that she claims she was a very spiritual type young lady, but now that after her vaccination, she claims she doesn't feel God anymore." And she looked at me and she said, "Hawkeye, I'm very concerned about this. You know, I want to pay you to search this out and see if there's any validity to what has happened to my daughter." She said, the lady is explaining, she said, "My daughter tells me that I know that I used to feel what God felt like, but I don't feel it anymore and I miss it. Hawkeye, is there anything that you can do? Any information you can give me?" Well, I looked at, the missus and I said, "I'm sorry, but this is rather astounding in that I was not aware that children were being affected in such a way with having had a vaccine in order to be able to go to public school, as it has been a requirement for a long time. Catholic school as well. I remember getting my inoculations." And so Hawkeye I looked at the lady and told her, "Ma'am, I will do my best to investigate this." So in doing a little internet search and some pondering, and knowing that I have met and have been involved with one way or another, maybe not personally, but I have watched scientists or physicists or, people who seem to speak the truth. And so I decided that I would send emails to some of these people and ask theoretically, is there any way that anything like this could happen? And so some of the scientists, just said, "I'm sorry, I don't have time for this." And after many emails and many solicitations to scientists even into philosophers or whoever, to find out if there was any validity to this, could this vaccine have do something to this person, this young child, into not being able to feel God anymore? So I got a hold of a tip that there was some Pentagon papers that had a study done, sorted through the CIA and everything, is to going back to the Jim Jones and supposedly the David Koresh thing in Texas, and that what they wanted to do as a preventative medicine, so to speak, was to develop a shot, a serum, a quote vaccine that would somehow enter the brain and turn those receptors off in especially people who are thought to be extremist. So, would Reverend Billy Graham be on that list, or or some other religious leader? But if they deemed that there was someone was having too much influence or effect, that they could be given a shot that would keep them from accessing this spiritual, um, being radically spiritual, they could shut it off. And so in doing so, I checked and found out there actually is some documentation on the fact that the CIA and the Pentagon did actually do testing with some types of inoculation back in the day, and that the success was fair to middling. But those results are obviously classified. But the fact that it transpired is an interesting point that I found. So I got in touch with Mrs. And I said, listen, this is an update to keep you informed as to what I found. I said, I received sort of this anonymous tip to just check out about the Pentagon papers on this matter. No real anybody, just, here you go. Okay. And that no scientist would touch it, whether they actually had time or thought I was joking, but explained to her that I did find evidence that yes, at some point there was at least a discussion about this in higher levels of the government. So she said, thank you very much. I'm in touch with a lawyer that I would like to try to sue the company, the pharmaceutical company that is responsible for the vaccine, because my daughter was fine, and now she's not. And she is, she may seem like a child to other people, but to me, for her to claim that she can't feel God anymore is distressing to me as a mother. Well, yes, ma'am, I can understand. So I told her that I would go ahead and continue my search. Well, then my search went into a totally separate area, sort of, in where someone sent me a tip about nanotechnology. And I have sort of understood nanotechnology, and have been sci-fi movies and comics and things about nanotechnology. And being able to, Star Trek did several things about injecting nanites into a person and be able to direct them to a particular part of the body or incident or something. So whether, if Star Trek did it, you can pretty much believe that somewhere along the line, if somebody had the thought to be able to do this, that they're probably actually doing it. And there's a lot of nanotechnology. So I realized this in myself and but I wonder where this is going to lead me. So I did some checking and I did a little bit of investigation, and come to find out that one of the ways that the government, through nanotechnology, and I found out about this from a back door, if you will. I was looking at this without thinking it was going to be attached to the vaccines. And then I realized, well, wait a minute. How better to control someone, and as Hawkeye Two Feathers, it is my journey in life to find the truth. So for my own self and for my own truth, what was there any validity in any of this? And so then I came upon this to where they had tiny little nanobots that they were injecting into mice and other rodents, primarily because mice respond in ways that are similar to humans, blah, blah, blah. And so in this story of looking, I find that they're injecting nanobots into different rats, and they're trying, and apparently are, controlling the rats with electronic pulses. And sometimes, depending on the type of nanobot that is placed into the rat, that they can be affected by changes of frequency from like a monitor, or a flicker of a screen could trigger the nanobot. And that the nanobot, depending on how it was programmed, would, if the mouse was running wildly before in the wheel, they would hit the button and the mouse would just go over in the corner and sit down. And then vice versa. They also did tests to where if the mouse wasn't very active, they would stimulate the mouse to where all he wanted to do was run until he just simply collapsed. So in my findings through this back door, they were using the nanobots in vaccines for the animals. And they were using the vaccine and vitamins. You know, they were injecting the rodents with all different kinds of vitamins and antibiotics and stuff, blah, blah, blah. But they were using those injections as the points of entry for the nanobots. Now, I found this entirely interesting. And I thought, well, now, how could this tie in with what the CIA Pentagon Papers claim as far as wanting to inject someone so that they will stop having, you know, religious fervor, if you will, and that in many instances people have claimed that they don't feel spiritual anymore after a vaccination or a shot of some kind. So I thought to myself, now, could this honestly just be conspiracy? Or is there actually some fact basis in this story? So in this, I contacted the missus again and I said, listen, I found this little interesting story about nanobots and things. And I was just curious, you know, here's an odd question to ask you, ma'am, but has your daughter been affected in any way when she's looking at a computer screen or watching television? She goes, well, as you mentioned that, she said she got highly agitated one time when there was this certain commercial on. And she said, I really had to calm her down. And I said, well, that's interesting. I said, well, how long did it last? She said, I don't know. By the end of the commercial, it seemed like she just went snap and came back to. And I was like, oh, really? Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Oh, that is an interesting observation. So then I said, okay, well, thank you. But the update is that there's some nanobot technology that seems to be out there, and some of it's public, and a lot of it's just not public, but you can still find out about certain things in research papers and other people's comments about research and things. And I said, whether or not it's actually true, there's a lot of evidence. I can't tell you that there's a plant in New Jersey that's raising mice with nanobots. I can't tell you that. But I can say there's a lot of evidence that there are pharmaceutical companies using nanobot technology in their serums, in their vaccines, in whatever it is. And the question comes up with the people that I know is why? Why would they put a nanobot in anything without telling you? So then I disconnected with the missus and the update, and it just made me more curious about what the situation was going on. And then I was researching a separate issue because I've always been interested in radio and ham radio and radio frequencies and Tesla stuff and that kind of thing. And I ran across this article having to do, and I remember this back during the day because the Russians were very much into developing mental telepathy and psychokinesis, and anybody that showed any kind of ability in that area, they were like, hey, come with us. And rather than shunning people and calling them witches and gypsies and whatever, although some of them were, but to the point that I said, well, wait a minute. So what were they doing? So here are people who already had like psychic abilities, and some of them were able to, you know, look at things in the future or be able to like be in the room. They were the fly on the wall during certain conferences and things. And when they found out, they said, wait a minute, we can't allow this. Well, we don't want to kill the people. So what could we do? Well, maybe if we inject something into them and shine a light at them or hit them with a certain frequency, a sound wave, something that they won't even hear, and it will either turn it off or turn it on. So they will, quote, have that God feeling or not. They will be able to have that preconception, that precognition, or be able to, you know, remote view and that they could turn it off and go, wait a minute, I used to have lucid dreams. Now I don't dream at all. Well, why? What happened? I got a shot. Really? Yeah, I got a vaccine. Wow, isn't that interesting? Yeah, really. And I just feel weird afterwards. Okay. So, but in this story, so I looked at what the Russians had done many, many moons ago and thinking that, wait a minute, they've had this technology and at least the idea for a long time. And now that we're in our, 2020 and looking at the future, I'm looking around going, wait a minute, the Pentagon discussed this back in the 80s and the 90s. And, they've had discussions all along. And so then there are people over here who are putting nanobots into rats. And now we find out that the Russians did studies with different frequencies and how a frequency, a change in frequency, sometimes even through a computer screen, could alter or change the commands in the nanobot. Now, I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, I know this is 2020. I know I've seen this on Star Trek. Could this be possible? So I got with a couple of friends of mine and we had a discussion about it. And one of them is a retired mathematician and sort of part-time physicist because in physics, you need to be a mathematician or it helps. And as a mathematician, it made him a pretty good physicist with his understanding and with equations and so forth. So in our discussion, we discussed it. Now, in the discussion of discussing this, yeah, we realized that, the idea of 5G towers everywhere, in a way, makes a little bit more sense. Because why would they insist on these towers everywhere with these higher frequencies to sell us on the quickness factor for our cell phones and our computers? Well, is there anything behind the nanobot theory? And is there anything behind, the motivation of why would they put nanobots in anything for any reason, especially without your permission? I mean, that's just a violation of, So in our discussions, the theory of becoming a nanobot zombie, because how else can they control the population? If enough folks get the nanobot, and depending on whatever frequencies they've been toying with, and there's a lot of evidence that you don't even need a nanobot to be affected by certain frequencies. We all know about the 432 and the 440, et cetera, and that type of thing. So in this story, in this scenario, our discussion came to the fact that, but now there is this virus going around, and there are a lot of people who are stressing, like Bill Gates and all these people. And there's already been enough evidence in other countries that Bill Gates and his association with vaccines, that a lot of those children died. And they want to say, well, they had a disease and they were poorly. No, if we got the numbers, there were a lot of folks killed because of their reaction to the vaccine. I did research, and down in South America, in Venezuela or Colombia, I believe, was where they gave this young lady a shot. And within 30 minutes, she was in convulsions and writhing. They had to hold her down. And within 30 minutes of having a vaccination, all the little children in the school lined up. Well, after that, none of the children would take a shot. Then I don't blame them, But, the government's standing there and the soldiers are in the village and they've got their little kits and they're going, ooh, this is from the Gates Foundation. Line up for your shot so that you don't get this disease or pass something on. Now, in this scenario of this story, we look at the evidence and said, but wait a minute. Is what they're after is to create nanobot zombies? In other words, for all those people who are so scared of whatever is going to happen that they wear masks and gloves in their own automobiles. And in this scenario and of this story, those are going to be the first people who are going to run to have the vaccination because they will get this medical card that says you've had the shot. And now you're allowed to go anywhere you want to without a mask because you've got your shot. You got your little medical card. It might be orange or purple, but you can wave it in the store and go, I got my shot. I'm okay. Don't worry about me. So in our conversation in this sci-fi story, we came to the conclusion that the mark of the beast is not something you're actually going to be able to see. And in that, because, oh, it's going to be a tattoo. Oh, it's going to be an injection, sort of. Now, they're still trying to push markers on children. And there was even an article that stated they could put a NanoBot technology into a child. So in case your child went missing or something, guess what they could do? Track them. Now, why would they want to do that? Oh, my son or daughter might get snatched. I better chip them. So in this chipping, in this nanobot technology, our conclusion was take no shots. Stay away from shots. And maybe some types of pills or whatever. Now, does that mean, though, that they couldn't slip them little bots into something else? Say, I have a friend of mine who's in the hospital and they have to give her saline and or they have to give her something intravenously. Is it already in it? Is she like sunk? So as myself, as Hawkeye Two Feathers, the detective, in this sci-fi story, I come to the realization that their nefarious plan might actually, this is very possible. And so the future of this sci-fi story is yet to be written, except to the point that those people that we within our community in this sci-fi story discussed it amongst ourselves and said, would these people actually do this to us? We had to pose the question in this sci-fi story as to whether or not that anyone would have the, let me back up, that anyone in the system that knew they were using nanobot technology and that didn't speak up, were they being controlled? Where did the higher ups have control of those people? The reason that I sent the letters out to all of these people, to the scientists and some medical folks, and, I got no response. Is it because they're afraid to say anything about this? If they did know anything about this. So the conspiracy of fear seems to be very real about this subject and the medical field, although there are hints and things everywhere. So I called up the missus and I said, listen, this is the information I have up to this point. I said, I even did research into the fact that there are children who have had a vaccination and then became autistic or became, their personality changed. I can't think of the right word right now. And that they lost compassion for people. There's a word for it, but that, and I have a couple of friends of mine who are very dear people, but they don't understand certain things about emotions. They're just Asperger's. Thank you very much. If somebody's out there thinking about it, it's Asperger's. And so these folks with Asperger's, some of them are perfectly lovely, but there's something about the spirit that they just don't understand. There is empathy and emotions that they I've had my friend say, somebody said, my father died, and I just came back from the funeral. And I think to myself, well, I'm really sorry that your father died. But when I say it, I have no emotion. I don't know what it feels like. Their father died. I'm sorry. Where other people say, I'm so sorry your father died, and there are tears running down. I don't feel that. But yet I understand it, but I don't feel it. And I've known this person for 30 years. And so I think to myself, were they inoculated with something down the line that changed their behavior? As we have all had inoculations and shots over the years, certain things affect certain people different ways. And I know personally, Hawkeye can't is allergic to flu shots because of the interactions and negative effects that I've had from having flu shots. And so I take this and I talk to the missus about it, and I say, I suggest you continue to find any other mothers who have had similar incidents. Contact them and form an online support group, but be careful of how you use certain terms when you discuss it, because there are people out there who will shut you down and the message won't get out there. So in talking with Mrs. X, she said, I did some research on my own since the last time we talked. And I said, that's interesting. She said, do you know there are over 60% of children under the age of like 15 that have some type of really serious deficiency, and that the number might actually be higher? And I was like, really? She said, yeah, it was through a national study, and I checked it in a couple of other locations, and that the the children who've been tested in the last 3 or 4 years, their intelligence quotient has gone down by 3 to 5% across the board. They're dumber. The children are just dumber. Now, she's told me, she said, now, is this because they received vaccines, and is it having an effect on those children? And so all I could do was say, Miss X, I'm sorry, but that's speculation. I hope not. So in that, she said, thank you, Hawkeye, for your further investigation on this. She said, but where do you think this is going to lead us? And I said, well, me and my colleagues have had this horrible thought that they keep talking, everybody's talking about zombie this and zombie that. And, some of it's just fun zombie stuff, like Zombie Land, and, oh, let's go whack a couple of zombie heads off or something. But to the point of the idea of a zombie that's being controlled, that's mindless and just goes about their business and without any realization of the world around them, and that they just sort of walk through life. And what does that mean? And I said, if they could flip a switch and those people who had that nanobot could just turn into unfeeling robots, in so many words, zombies, nanobot zombies. And there are many of us in this sci-fi story that are wondering whether or not the bad guys, if this is their ultimate agenda 21, agenda 30, that they have been promoting, boasting. And also it would help to make sense, those folks who are insisting that the end of the Bible must be accomplished. There must be an apocalypse. There must be massive die-offs. There must be tremendous wars. There must be, to fulfill the prophecies that these folks actually promulgated over the centuries. They want to see the ending to their books. They need to have their prophecies fulfilled. Now, Mrs. X talked to me and she goes, I was a Catholic. And she goes, now I start seeing things in a different light. And she said, I'm not quite sure if I should have ever trusted the Catholic Church. And I said, there are a lot of my friends that feel the same way. But it's not just the Catholic Church, it's the institutions. For whatever reason, the people who quote to seem to be in charge, and those people may be mind controlled. We have to understand that if some of these people are nefarious enough to want to change certain people, what's to say they haven't already changed some of these people? And that where they may have had an honest and true agenda at some point, now have changed their point of view, they've changed their spiritual path, and maybe they've stopped being spiritual altogether. So she said, thank you, and said, we'll talk again. I hung up the phone and considered everything that I had learned. And considering that these people that I spoke with and the scientific information from all around the world from different sources gave more proof to the fact that the nanobot theory could actually be true and not just a conspiracy. And although none of us could come up with a microscope to be able to analyze any of these vaccines, but there is enough information about radio waves, about light waves, about impulses, light and energy impulses that are being sent to us on a continuous basis. And those folks with cell phones are more susceptible to it because they can't put the damn things down. So with my consideration of what I've learned, I realized that, there are a lot of people who are going to be in trouble. And without their knowledge and without their understanding that they may already be a nanobot zombie. What does the future hold in this sci-fi? I think it's going to be a trilogy. We'll see. So this is the end of part 1 of this sci-fi story about nanobot zombies. All right, now I'm going to come out of storyteller mode and just have a conversation. Now, what I just discussed is, this is the end of, this is the end of the story. If somebody wants to check up on what's he talking about, it's a sci-fi story. Now, let me put it to you this way. All of this information I have been watching over the years, and recently I've come across some more information. And it seems like, oh my God, they really, really, really want to do this. Because when I discussed in the story about the woman, Mrs. X's daughter, there is actually out there on the internet now a person who was given a C-19 injection, and her remarks that are posted on the internet are that I don't feel God anymore. This is current information. This is not some type of fantastical thing. I present it to you as a sci-fi story because it feels like I am in the Twilight Zone. And so I've known about certain segments of this, but by gaining more information and by hearing very intelligent people who are talking about this openly, okay? And so it's not like it's hidden, but if you don't know where to go, what to look at, then you go, okay, now, since those of you who are in here at the moment, I'm going to drop a link in the chat room, okay? I suggest that you please, 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 wait. Okay. Hi, Aurora Rain and Jack Desmond. Oh, Duggar's on the prowl again tonight. Anyway, hi Jack. Calm down, Duggar. Um, it's a YouTube channel called The Dark Journalist, and they have Catherine Austin Fitz on. This Dr. Joseph, I can't remember his last name, is in that link. It's about 3 hours long, and they're discussing a lot of the things that I just talked about, but they give evidence. Okay, so if you want to find a place to whether or not this is really a a a true story or not, whether it's science fiction or whether it's just a bunch of hooey, I would suggest please watch that video. Now, you all know that I don't usually say, hey, watch this, right? You should watch this video and check out some of the other dark journalists. Subscribe and check out some of the older videos because there's information in there. How do I say this? That sort of correlates with some of the space stuff, and some of the other back channel stuff. But they're talking about it openly and with fact and lots of other things. So in this sci-fi story I just told you, just check out that video, please, because where I was a little concerned before, my concern went up. You know what I'm saying? Like, holy crap. I knew that they wanted to do something with the shots, right? There are certain words I'm going to stay away from, okay? So I knew there was something with the shots or of the pills. And, and what could they do with it? Well, there's been a lot of speculation and a lot of discussion. And I've worked around radio stations and stuff, and I know what high voltage and high, frequencies from, radio towers and things will do and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I'm not a complete dummy in that area. But at the same time, there are a lot of folks who've done a lot more research than I have in that area. But it's obvious, though, and from my own experience with flashing lights and having seizures, yes, your brain can be affected. It is absolutely, positively true, okay? And for people who want to say, oh, well, that's not really, please, slap yourself a few times and go dunk your head and splash some water in your face and go, okay, let me think about this. It really is true. That really does happen. They really are doing these things, okay? And if they're not doing it, they can do it. That's the biggest concern. Whether or not they are, they can. Now, I consider it that they are because some of the programs that I see have way too many flashing things across the screen. And it's almost like they want to flash your brain so that you get their product or their message, whatever it is in that commercial. And at the end of it, they kind of flash it again with a couple of fancy pictures or something. And you go blink, 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 blink. And you go, what was that? There were 5 or 6 pictures within a 2-second period. It was like, blah, 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 blah. What was that? They're showing your subconscious pictures. And I've had this discussion in other videos, but it is very important to understand. The subconscious is recording everything we hear and see, whether our conscious mind knows it or not. So in this, though, there's already evidence that they have used this technology recently, and the results have been that, whoops, she doesn't feel God anymore. She doesn't feel the spirit. Here's the interesting thing. Now, and here's the subtext of this. They stopped the trials on that particular shot. Almost said a dirty word. On that particular trial. And because it didn't have the effect they were wanting. And you say, well, Hawkeye, what do you mean by that? Well, if she realized that she couldn't feel God or the spirit anymore, then it only half worked. You see? because in this, their goal would be to shut it off entirely, so that the person would go, "Wow, what's a God?" And they wouldn't miss it. But the fact that she understood in her own humanity and soul and spirit that something was missing. Now, that is just one dadgum interesting point of contention here. So, yes, there are documents within the Pentagon Papers and things. Yes. Yes, the Russians have done. We've done studies. Yes, they've been injecting mice and rats and probably people. And who knows who or whom in what circumstance has been, given a drink, given a shot, given something that the other guy said, well, we want this little nanobot in there, because we've already done all these tests and we can already prove that we can do certain things with it, alter a behavior, change a thing, and or make you not feel God. Oh, holy crap. So for all of us who are on a spiritual journey, most of us on this planet are in some way, shape, or another. Some are on a different path, but they're still looking spiritually, even though it might be to the dark side. They're still looking. You know what I mean? So one would say, well, wait a minute, maybe we could give all the Luciferians that pill, and they would quit feeling that way. Well, they could say the same thing about Christians or anybody else who didn't think about their point of view. You follow? So it's like maybe you can't feel God anymore, so they can convince you that their way is the way. Now, there's already England and over there, the Europeans are trying to do the second wave with, you know what? And they want to lock down even more. They're trying to drive the numbers up, and that this is the second wave. Now, the Canadians, through other channels that I have from folks in Canada, they want to coerce the people in Canada with this new parliamentary procedure. That what you can do is that, you don't have to, we'll give you money every month, but you have to give up title to your land. If you own a house or a car, you have to give up title to the government. But we're going to send you a check every month. But you must also be given the dose. And then we're going to issue you this bright orange card so that you can travel within the states or the provinces as it is, or to be able to leave the country, or be able to go buy groceries in your local grocery store. You can wear this proudly. I have had my dose. And that people in Canada are starting to buy into it. Like, oh, well, if I could travel and not have to wear, a face covering anymore, well, I'll just go down and get it so I can get my card, and they're going to send me money, and they're, this sounds like a great idea, doesn't it? This is current information, okay? The information I got yesterday about the Canadian thing and about what's going on. We really don't know what whoever these higher muckety mucks are that want to somehow control everything about us. So for every person who gets their little orange card, then those orange card folks are, will soon outnumber, because of peer pressure and government pressure. And maybe we're going to line you up and give you it mandatory, so that if you don't have an orange card, you're going to be ostracized, penalized. They will take your property away if you don't get the shot dose. That's what the Canadians are proposing. And it's in Parliament. It's already been discussed. There are public videos of them discussing it. So this is not some kind of hierarchy conspiracy. Oh no, these folks are literally planning this as we speak. So that, the discussion though about property is that technically I don't own this property I'm sitting on. I pay rent. Okay. And they're going to get it one way or the other because I am under in the state of Georgia. If I were to die and no one claimed the house or whatever, or I didn't have an heir or they didn't pay the taxes on it one year, then it would become the property of guess who? By eminent domain, they would own my property. Okay. It would become the property of the state, at least of the county, which is then attached with the state. So none of us own anything. We're just renting. We must play this game. So now if it comes to the point of having, and I'm saying orange card, if they come out orange, I'm gonna freak. But with the idea that there are many Democrats who are very much on board with this, we must stay covered up. We must have this protection. We must have our orange cards because how else will we know that we're safe? And a lot of us are going, oh, no, you don't. I went along with the face covering for a while, but you're telling me that in order for me to be able to do anything, I'm going to have this and get a card. And so what? Here's the thing. You live in New York City, there's what, 5, 7, 10 million people, whatever. And Gerald Celente was talking about this in one of his recent interviews. And I've been watching Gerald for a long time, the New Trends Journal and all that. And he's got a head on his shoulders. And he talks the way it is. He said, this is a pandemic. They planned this economically. Because they were having shortfalls within the and the Federal Reserve and this, that, and the other thing. They want to try to calm the economy down. So how better could they do that than to send everybody home from work and to have all these businesses shut down? And that those people that have a lot of money, the people that had to go out of business, guess what? There's been a lot of land grabbing going on. So guess what? They can control even more by buying up the property that people had to foreclose on or had to go out of business or whatever that is. And then also all of those assets that were purchased by people who had to just close their doors. So if they want to make any money, anything that's in the store, if it's a bakery, there's all the ovens and things and all the things that within the business become the property of these people then. So then all of these assets are being controlled. It's not just the business. It's not just the physical property, but it's the stuff in it. Machine shop goes down. All the tools, all of the CNC machines, all of the people, they all go to, but then that all becomes a part of this big thing. It's owned by someone else now. And this is current. It's been going on, but it's really going on now. It's just that there's so much other attention in so many other areas. This is not being discussed. So it's like, and here's the deal. One side is as bad as the other. All right. But the B side of this equation, no, we just cannot go there. I mean, of all the folks that are out there that are talking about this, they go, many of us don't like what the current president is doing. A lot of things, a lot of stuff, but we all realize that what these other folks are proposing is suicide for the nation. And we're already in a bunch of crap. They're trying to devise this, and even within the Democratic Party, this is not about politics, but it is current about what these folks are doing. They're trying to split the Democratic Party up. Bernie Sanders just had tonight had a big rally somewhere, and all the Bernie fans. And here's the thing, Bernie's got a house full of people, okay? And the Biden-Harris ticket You know, they go somewhere and there's nobody there. So Bernie's had more in one of his tonight than they've had in the last 5 or 6, quote, Democratic rallies. So you got to wonder what the F is going on. So, as an observer, as Hawkeye Two Feathers, as an observer, we have to look at this thing and go, who's really doing, who's what? Wait a minute here. Now, neither side is the good side, and we all wish that there was an honest to God third party. But Trump, as sort of an independent Republican, is about as close as we're going to get at the moment. So, what are our considerations? Well, we can say that the current president is not pushing masks. Okay. At the moment, he's saying a vaccine is being, worked on, but he's not necessarily pushing the vaccine like the Democrats are. So you have to ask yourself, let's just think about this sci-fi scenario. So if one party is pushing harder than the others, wouldn't you suggest, I mean, couldn't it be very obvious that, wait a minute, they're more nefarious than the other side? You know what I'm saying? So it's not a question of politics or this and that, but let's look at the facts. So who's on the side of the Democrats? Bill Gates and all these other people, right? Bill Gates Foundation, the shot thingy. He also has, quote, a large collection of satellites. He's into that industry. So you mean they can beam us from a satellite? I mean, if they can affect, a GPS signal. So what if you're holding a GPS device? A lot of cars have GPS devices in them now. So what if your GPS sends you a beep while you're driving down the road and it hits your NanoBot and turns you into a zombie while you're driving down the road? Well, the cars have gone zombie, so why couldn't, the frequency? Why can't there be an interruption of a signal that could cause a catastrophic tumbling of effects? So maybe you hear a frequency after one of these pills that all of a sudden that wasn't intended, but you hear a frequency and it pushes the button unintendedly. You know what I'm saying? You just hear it randomly in something and go, wee, and it turns you into a zombie without their permission, so to speak, or into something else, or just shuts you down, or just, so, wow, gee, I just don't have any feeling anymore about anything. I think I used to have compassion. I think I wrote a poem about it when I was a kid. I think I did a video about that, but I can't remember. I just don't give a shit about anything anymore. I'll head on to work, and that's it. So this story is not to scare you, but this story is damn sure to make us a little bit more aware of like a real good reason. Well, it might affect us. People have already been affected, and their reactions are they don't feel God anymore. That's even more nefarious than, that would kill us. That would just turn off our soul, as it were. It would just, what? After all the hard work we've done? And they want to do that. That is a high potentially, because of current evidence, it is a high potential factor in this equation. So take the pill, not me. They will have to hold me down. They will have to, it will have to be, they will have to point a gun at my head, and I might just say, go ahead, shoot me, because I would rather not be a nanobot zombie. And I had this weird flash. Now, for those of you folks who may have seen the movie Soylent Green, in that movie was Edward G. Robinson. And I think it was one of the last movies that Edward did before he passed away. sort of ironic, but he was an old man when he made the movie, like me, I guess, in a way. But I there are times when I flash back weirdly to Edward G. Robinson and his friend, I can't think of the characters now, comes in and he goes, you know, I've known you for a bunch of years, and you know, and the thing is that you know, everybody's getting Soylent Green, little green things they eat, right? But they're also, you know, you can have pills that will make you just forget about what's going on and just go along with things, you know. So the Edward G. Robinson character, um, his character comes in and says, well, you know, you're getting old, and are you going to, you know, go to the suicide center? Basically, they shoot you up with a really good set of drugs, and then as you enter this chamber and everything, and then you see your life flash behind you, in front of you and behind you, with on this super high LSD trip, and then you OD. And but the question was in Soylent Green, what happened or what happens to the bodies? So the guy comes in and says to Edward G, he goes, Ed, how you doing today? And he goes, well, I think it's time for me to go ahead and take that suicide ride. And he goes, really? What changed your mind? Why all of a sudden are you ready? And so Edward's got this can of peaches, a can of yellow cling peaches, and he's opening them with an old-timey can opener. And he said, well, he said, this is my last can of peaches. And this is the last thing that I could hold out for, because he wouldn't eat Soylent Green. And so he said, this is it. So my last can of peaches, and I'm out of here. So anyway, so he said, but when I go, what I want you to do is I want you to find out where my body goes. So he says, okie dokie. And so he went through the suicide thing. And so the character follows his body through and finds out that they're squashed, mangled, and otherwise pressed into Soylent Green. So at the end of the movie, he's being arrested by his own, he was a cop, so he's being arrested by his fellow officers because he's screaming to the people. Soylent Green is people. Now, I can't remember the guy's name. Somebody out there help me out. Who was the he played Ben-Hur, Moses. Who's the guy, the actor? But anyway, too excited and happy for suicide. Yep. Charlton Heston. Thank you, Teresa. Man, I could see his face, you know, and you know, and the Planet of the Apes, and no, you know. Anyway, Soylent Green is people. But here's the strange part about that. In that movie, though, they were giving everybody a tablet, sort of like, you know, everybody were stoned all the time, and so they wouldn't notice what was going on. They were basically zombies because there was too many people and society had changed, and you know, there wasn't enough food to go around. So they were, you know, people who had just had enough of life. Off you go, and you know, suicide yourself. But then what they were doing, then they had it into a factory that different processes, and it ended up as Soylent Green. Now, in a lot of ways, we're sort of eating people now because there are a lot of products that have been found to have fetuses in there and different kinds of tissue. And it's like, what? Right. You know, lanolins and some of these things and these special secret compounds. It was noted before, I think it was David Bowie before he passed away, made this comment that kind of sort of went public, and he goes, yeah, I go to this place, this spa and have these facials done to keep me, nice and clean. He goes, yeah, there's supposed to be baby parts in them or something. That's what helps you keep you looking so young. And everybody went, what? You know, so, but anyway, that's been many years ago, but it really hit the things that he's going to go for these skin treatments and everything. And he knows there are baby parts in it. So that was like, so there are a lot of cosmetics and things and stuff that, you know, you should like, what's in this? Well, it's a special enzyme. Where'd you get it? Well, it's a special enzyme. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But where'd you get it? Anyway. So, you know, I know people younger than me with wrinkles. Now I'm 68 and I've had a hard life and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, to go to all this nonsense of trying to keep your face all nice and perfect and everything. I'm 68, for God's sakes. You should look a little old, you know, and act your age. Well, I don't act my age, but so in this scenario, in this sci-fi story, though, there's way too much real evidence of what's quite possibly is actually happening, as not a sci-fi story at all, but a combination of things they've been showing us for a long time. So what do we do about it? We are cognizant of it. We are aware of it because we are observers in this, right? We have to contain our emotions, although I want to go punch something, you know, because you want to do what? It's already bad enough, but you want to do what? So, you know, all of us would be on the shit list for them, right? Here, you come get yours now because, you know, you claim you don't have a box to think out of. Right, I don't. Well, then you're prime candidate. Line up. I ain't going. I will go kicking and screaming. And, you know, I might not commit, it might be suicide by cop, but I ain't having that. For a bunch of reasons. I'm too old. You know, if you want to take me out, then just shoot me. Just get it over with, you know. If it has to be that way. So now with this second wave of, you know what, and read, you know, the local news about what's going on over there in the UK right now. I mean, those folks over there are going bat crap cray cray, okay? And there are folks up in the Northeast and some other places, but then, you know, that, you know, they're afraid to go near anyone that isn't covered in plastic, basically, you know, and in some of these places, they're almost insisting that you wear a freaking, you know, hazmat uniform. And I'm sorry, but it ain't that bad. And, you know, I was so proud to see the folks in Tallahassee in the stands at the Knowles football game the other day. I was so happy when other colleges and stuff, they would only let 1,000 people into the stadium. I think that, you know, there was a lot more than that in the Tallahassee stadium. Now, let's find out in the next few days if somehow the virus jumped unproportionally in Tallahassee, which it hasn't, to my knowledge. So all those people who went to the football game somehow would have magically been affected, but there hasn't been a rise at this moment in any affected folks. So they said, screw this, I'm going to the football game, you know, where other places are scared to flipping death, you know, and NFL's afraid, oh my God, if we let anybody in here, listen, if I want to pay $100 to come see your freaking football game, then I'm going to take the risk if I want to. Don't tell me what I can or can't do. You know, if this is supposed to be a free society, if I want to come in and I give you the money for a ticket, regardless of whatever thing's going on, and we've had enough proof now that it's a little overblown, I'm going to the football game or baseball game or basketball game or hockey game or whatever. And kudos to Tampa for winning the Stanley Cup. Yay, Tampa, you know. It is my old alma mater. I have a little bit of affinity for them folks down there because they got crapped on for a bunch of years, and the Bucks beat what you call it the other day. I loved it. I'm sorry, but they beat the Packers. Yay! just because of the snottiness of the quarterback for the Packers. I was like, yeah, buddy, you know, so damn. So, what do we do about this situation? As you and I and us, how can we affect this? We start sharing different videos, not necessarily mine, because I can't. This is mine is a sci-fi story, but it is based on fact. But the I'm gonna put it back in. I'm gonna drop it back in the copy this, paste it, go watch this video, please. I can't stress enough how important it is that you folks stay informed with what some of these folks are discussing. It is very important, vital for all of us. The United States, sovereignty, I mean, the whole deal. Go check these folks out, please. Okay? And stay connected with them, because the information they come out with, they always come up with documents or some kind of proof or background or something. So it's like you go, well, that's just another conspiracy channel. And they talk about UFOs and this and that, and they talk about all kinds of stuff, okay? And the general effect of what it's going to have on us or may have on us. Hi, Brian. What if we are already dead and limbo is the awakening process, so we will distract ourselves? I think there are a lot of people who are already in a limbo, you know, and it's those folks that won't that refuse to put their phone down or turn it off, or that, you know, they've got to have this connection. I'm seriously worried for some of these people, you know, and they just don't get it. You know, I say, well, can you turn it off? You know, well, but somebody might have to call me. Well, okay, you know, just leave it at that. I'm not going to get in a big argument about it. And way back in the day, there was a lot of stuff about the cell phones, brain cancer, being close to the head, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, this was back about 2003, 4, 5, back in there. I remember that. And all of a sudden, the tablet and the smartphone started coming out. And the idea that there was any type of radio interference with our cell phones and our brains, no science, nothing, and it got dropped. I mean, you go back and look at it back 15 years ago and check some stuff, and you'll find out that there was a lot of discussion about the radio waves too close to the, don't wear, you know, women don't put the cell phone in your bra, that it, you know, it could give you breast cancer, and don't do this. I mean, I have 2 walkie-talkies, okay, they're a pair. And in that, there are 5 pages in fine print of both sides about where not to wear the walkie-talkies. Now, they got a range in a straight line distance of about 20, 25 miles. And I got about 15 miles out of it around here. So, and they're for backup in case anything happens. It's got 22 channels or whatever. Anyway, so it's for in case emergencies, right? Takes AA batteries. So, you know. But anyway, so in this, though, there's all this discussion about don't put it next to your head. Don't do this. Don't hold it here. Make sure you wear this little device, and don't wear it all the time. Why? Because of the radio frequencies. Now, this is just a walkie-talkie, not a high band, like $70 maybe, and for the pair. And so it's like, what? So here, there's all this information for a walkie-talkie, and people are carrying around cell phones next to their heads. So the idea that the information is somehow, well, it's false, I just go out there and look at, pick a brand of walkie-talkies, okay? A decent brand. And then go in there and look at their little manual. You know, a lot of these have them online. If you and in there you'll read all about all the warnings about the transmission signals and having it on too long and doing this and doing. And I was like, oh, holy crap! But do you get that with your cell phone? Not a lick. Not a lick. But companies who sell walkie-talkies are required by FCC regulations, because it's a walkie-talkie, to express those things. But a cell phone somehow doesn't fall into the same classification as the FCC regs on a walkie-talkie or that type of instrument. So you got to just say, wait a minute. Now, Hawkeye, what you talking about? Listen, I've been knowing about this stuff for years. That's why, I went through a period of bitching about cell phones and the radio waves and the effect it can have on people and so forth. And it was like, nobody's listening, but I'll mention it again now, especially with all this NanoBot activity that is being actively used, and they want to use it in a current application that they wish to force upon us. So everybody that's got a cell phone and who gets one of these things can be triggered immediately, regardless of where they are. And with Bill Gates and his satellites, and for those who have GPS and stuff, they could send that little ding over the GPS. You say, well, that's a little far-fetched. No, it isn't. They're already doing it. All right. So compare the notes. Cell phone information about, hazards, walkie-talkies. Compare the hazards. Oh, holy crap. Read them for yourself. But I was shocked. I was really shocked. But anyway, so what do I know, right? But in that what I don't know thing is that I sure have learned over the years. And, this is something, it isn't some conspiracy thing. Seriously, go check out. You can go into, well, maybe not now, but when I was in Walmart where I bought this pair, I opened it up and looked at, I asked them, I want to buy that pair. Can I see the box? And it happened to be open. So I pulled out the little manual thing and I'm looking at it going, holy crap, what's all these FCC regs and all this stuff and warnings and warning and how to, the special belt clip so it doesn't touch your body. What? A walkie-talkie. So, okay. But anyway, so whether or not this is possible, whether or not it's feasible, whether or not you think any of this is true, okay, this is a time maybe that you should really honestly wake up and go, oh, holy crap. It was bad enough before, but oh, holy crap. And so we all have to look at this and go, now, what can we do about this? We have to show our friends and neighbors without getting too upset about it. You know what? This person, just show that one little video clip or whatever of the person, and it's somewhere out there on the internet. I don't have that link. But if you go to that video with Dark Journalist on YouTube, they show he holds up a picture of it, of the bottle and the remarks and the thing, and so it's there. We should seriously, for those of us who may have like, well, I don't know, I'm thinking, hang on, I might have my God spark turned off. You want to do what? You want to take my years of learning about spirituality and about the spirit and about the creator, and you want to turn it off in me? Nah, shoot me. Okay, that's the answer to that. I will go to my grave saying no. If that's what it comes to. And I know that it's a one hell of a choice that we might have to make. But here's the bottom line. If we start telling enough people, if we start, I don't know whether or not we should like be banging pots and pans. How much of a clamor should we make? Pass that video around. Just share it to your friends and say, please watch at least the first hour or so of this video, because the second part of it is usually questions and answers, which are very informative in and of itself. It's like a 3-hour video, like one of mine, I guess. But in with Dr. Joseph Farrell, I think is his last name, and he's written many books. He's been in a lot of stuff. He knows a lot of things, and he's been around a long time. He's an old fogey like me, and we remember things, you know. And so they do talk politics. They do talk woo-woo UFO stuff and what the secret sciences are hiding from us. They discuss all kinds of things. But this thing about the current nanobot idea is way more true than a conspiracy of several years ago. So we really need to ask ourselves, what's next in this conundrum? We have to stand up. We have to say no. And you know, whether we discuss the nanobot issue or not, we got to say this is not healthy for us, because certain people have already had reactions in the trial runs. So, do I want to submit myself or my children or other people to something that's already been proven to take away the God spark? I don't feel God anymore. That just, what? Right? You know what I mean? So, anyway, okay. Creator is the symphony of all vibration, numero uno. Yeah, but here's the weird thing, though. What if they honestly can sever that connection? You know, that really is a scary thing. Pamela says, I warned everyone about Cliff High's nanobots and the kids got right to work on it. Yeah. Dominic says, some people remember from birth, not me. You take your cell phone to the John? Lots of people take their cell phones to the John. But here's the thing. The interesting thing in this conundrum, if you will, is that why did they quit talking about the possible hazards of radio frequencies when the smartphone and the tablet started coming out? Why did they just, whoops, we ain't going to talk about it no more? It's just, whoops, you know, it was not a discussion. It just stopped. And I've talked about this before, and I've asked other people, don't you remember when they talked about the radio frequencies and cell phones and holding them to your ear and the little thing that now everybody's wearing all these wireless devices in both ears, and oh, isn't this Wi-Fi nice? I can listen to this, and you've got radio frequencies on both sides of your heads, you know, and you say, well, what do you think Wi-Fi is? You know, it's wireless information. It comes in the form of a radio wave. But it's Wi-Fi. It's not going to hurt me. I mean, you know, it's just headphones. Yeah. And everybody's buying into the Wi-Fi headphones. And no, I'm sorry. I don't care how long the wire has to be. I want to be plugged in with a normal wire, not some kind of Wi-Fi attachment to my brain. No, I have enough brain issues, not going to go there. But there are people who are buying into this because it's cool. So I have to ask myself, the people the more that they try, it's like, oh, you should try these headphones. There was this episode on Star Trek, Next Generation, okay? And somebody had gone to this planet. And they had gotten these new little fancy things they put on their heads, right? And oh, it was so neat. It was a game. And so then this person tried it. And then Will Riker tried it. And then this person. And next thing you know, Beverly Crusher's got it. And they're all playing this game, right? They've all got these little headsets on. And I think it was Will Riker that says, what are you people doing? You know, and then he found out that they were being mind controlled by these little devices that people put on their heads. Duh, wireless little devices, you know, in Star Trek. So here are all these people running around with Wi-Fi things next to their brain. And we have to wonder. I do, you know, knowing what I know about radio waves and things, I wonder, Are these people already zombies? Have they already got there to the point where there is no hope for these folks because they have already been affected by this? So, you look around and go, well, how come some people just don't get this? Maybe it's because they've already been affected, not necessarily with the nanobot, but by the radio frequencies themselves, because we already know that they're dangerous. So, with that fact known, what do? We just try to warn folks by showing them, listen, I found this about radio waves. Let me send it to you. My friend got the set of walkie-talkies, and it discusses the dangers of different radio frequencies. And our cell phones have the same type of thing. Did you know that? But there's no warning. I just thought maybe you'd be interested. That's how we do it. We don't beat folks over the head with this, but we have to show them, here are the facts. If a walkie-talkie has these restrictions and these warnings, then why don't we get those kind of warnings with our cell phones? Because everybody's holding them up to their head, right? When I had my cell phone, even my radio phone, I always put it on speaker because I don't want to hold it next to my head. It's a radio to the thing, no. So I always put it on speakerphone so it's not next to my head. And so I've been understanding this for a long time. So, but anyway, we should pass this on to people as gently and politely as we can, but being firm in our stance. In other words, no, this really is real, and just kind of sort of leave it at that. They go, well, this is just bullshit. Here, just read this manual from this cheap set of walkie-talkies, and then that's all. If you don't understand the correlation between radio waves and cell phones and a walkie-talkie, and some cell phones even have a walkie-talkie selection that you can do, so what? So yeah, you can walkie-talkie with. So shouldn't the same restrictions apply or warnings apply if you can use your cell phone as a walkie-talkie? So, but anyway, I know somebody out there, telepathy. Thank you, Pamela. His elders couldn't imagine the fantastic future of not being in a hive. Thank God for the kids. Yep. Brian, the sooner we can switch to an etheric technology, the better. If those folks don't try to block it, okay, I agree with you. Travis, the brick. Hi, how are you, Travis? I've been banging pots and pans to a room full of deaf and blind for years. I agree, Travis. And see, that's sort of my point in this. The louder we bang our pots and pans, the more they tune us out. So in order to get to them, we present them quietly and politely, but with love and affection, and say, I found this to be very interesting. And somebody showed me this. And just go, versus, listen, if you don't pay attention, this is happening, But we have to, I want to bang pots and pans, you know what I mean? Dominic, music is my go-to. Sarah, hi, Sarah. Could the cell phones be another way of attacking us to harm and control us? Yes, 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 on so many levels. I mean, they have the technology now and have had it for a couple of years to where they have these programs that some of the doctors and folks are using, that all you have to do is log in with somebody. Now, Dr. Sam Muggsy, who's been, the quantum shift program for years, has been using some of this technology for quite some time. And if you were to check with them, they can actually read your aura through the camera on the computer. And it runs through this program that checks your aura out and says, oh, you have an iron deficiency, or, oh, you got a such and such, and so the technology is already here, has been here. So if they can check by using a program that you can purchase to check who you are in your aura, then duh, you know what I'm saying? So to send something back or to whatever, and you know, Dr. Sam has said in her videos and stuff, um, whoops, something just happened. You still there? Okay, we're still here. All right, I touched the wrong button. So anyway, evil is faint. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I've tried every way I can think of. Well, here's the thing: if they're not going to hear it, they're not going to hear it. Nanodust. I have many of us have contemplated that, like what was actually in the all the spraying in the sky, you know. Now recently, knock on wood, I haven't seen near as many, you know, trails in the sky. And I just haven't. Saw a really strange one the other day, and I was like, "That's strange." There is one, and it was a strange pattern. And I kind of wondered if it wasn't one of those spaceships that try to come in and they don't hide very well, and they leave a cloud trail. But because it was really strange. But anyway, we all know that we've had a bunch of stuff drop from the sky on us. So were there nanoparticulates in any of that? Who knows? You know what I mean? Could it be possible? Absolutely. And so maybe we've already breathed it in. They could have put it in bottled water. And I've been talking about bottled water for folks for a long time. Find another source and quit drinking out of plastic bottles so much, and quit relying on those plastic bottles. Figure out another way. But anyway, so what's to say they haven't put something in our water? And how would you know? Well, it's a nanobot. So somebody somewhere who's working for the other side, takes a gallon of stuff and mixes it in, in the public drinking water, or if they're bottling water, and stirs it up, and then all these nanoparticles get put into to drinking water. Now, what's to say that can't happen or hasn't already happened? It's already been suggested that it has happened. So it's like, all right. So it may be too late for some of us because it's already been given to us. But in order to make sure that their Agenda 21 is met, they have to step up their game. And so what better way to do it than the second wave, like the UK and Europe's doing right now? And then people over there are not happy. And so I hope they fit. I'm sorry, but the politicians who are making those rules, the people need to go in there and drag them out of Parliament and tar and feather them. Hanging might be too good for them, but anyway. Hi, Scratch. Hi, Cherry. How are you? But where do we go from here? We have more information. And here's the deal. It's not just you and me that has this information. That's what the really interesting part about this is. There are a lot of really smart people who have been in higher places of the government, like Catherine Austin Fitts. She was the She was the assistant secretary to HUD back in the day. She's very informative, and not just on economic matters, but all kinds of other things. And she's also done videos with the Dark Journalist. Has also been on the Greg Hunter. He has a mostly about economics and that type of thing, and politics and stuff. But so there are folks out there who have been discussing this possibility for a while, and intelligent people, smart people, folks that got a lot more pull and say and a lot more subscribers than here. But in that, though, my discussion with you, if you've not heard of some of these folks like the Dark Journalist, you should then watch and see what some of these other people actually have documentation for. So should it scare you? No, but it should go, oh, holy crap. But here's the thing that I feel better about. There are other people who are aware and are concerned and are working towards informing everyone about this, who have bigger platforms. So we need to share their platforms, if nothing else, because they've got the proof and whatever. So, but anyway, with that said, somebody out there I could feel was hollering, pull a card. So love you all too, Cherry. Thank you. Scratches, it's I've been posting this everywhere for about 8 months. Yep. It's all advanced technology. Yes, Sarah, it is. It's what the dark journalists and some folks are calling the secret science. In other words, I found patents that were released from being, top secret. And I've discussed this before about metallurgy, about, how to heat treat certain elements and how to attain certain chemical bonds and so forth with metals. Now, why would they keep that top secret? Because they're working with some stuff they don't want the rest of us to know about, period. Bottom line. And this goes back to the 50s, okay? So they've known about certain technologies and heat treatment. I mean, how else can you make a spaceship unless you start using some type of exotic metal and some exotic form of heat treatment or method to produce these different metal compounds? Hey, I was surprised. I've talked about this before, but it's all related into what these people are hiding, the secret science. So it's out there. It pops out in little nooks and crannies and pops its head up. But then again, how many people are really paying attention? So because I pay attention to those weird places, and what's that science thing about? I did a video about, that was it Jupiter or Saturn that gained a couple of moons. Like all of a sudden they had two more moons, and one that they thought they had disappeared suddenly. This has been a couple of years ago. I did a video about it. But here's the thing: how do moons just suddenly appear and disappear around Jupiter or any other planet? Guess what? They're not moons, but Death Star, big giant spaceships. Here's, what? There's somebody else I want to. Let's see if I can get to them. Hang on, y'all. There's somebody that deserves to have more subscribers and doesn't. And I've been a member, subscriber to his channel for quite a while now. And so just bear with me a second. I'm looking for his website so I can send you the link. And so one of the days that I didn't know Trina was on with Rainbow Phoenix. Oh, I didn't mean to get into somebody else's time slot. I thought I checked, but anyway, it is what it is. I try my best not to compete with any other channels or anything. So just to be fair. I think other people's voices should be heard, even though, how do I put this? Are y'all still there? Am I still live streaming? Okay. Mossy Man, community harassment and technology perception management and voice to the skull. Yep. Brian, that's difficult to hear as human avatars. What if we are the ones that decided to have this experience? In my heart of heart, Brian, I'm honestly hoping and praying that I know that there were things in my soul contract when I came down here that I wasn't quite aware of, and it's like, did I really sign on to this, and somehow it was in the fine print, but I think there are things that have come along for all of us in our spiritual journey in this. I don't think any of us had planned this out. Can y'all hear that? Okay, that's enough. Um, I'm doing a control V here. Wait. Hang on. I sometimes. All right, let's see if this will go in. Oh, I know what I was doing wrong. Hang on. I was using the wrong command. It's control C. And here's control V. Okay. Give this guy some of your love. Okay. Now, you say, all right, Hawkeye, who's this guy? The name of the channel is called Wire I Read. All right. And you should check it out. Now, what this gentleman does is he goes out to the LASCO and the C2 and those cameras that look at the sun. All right. And he'll take, usually it's only a 2 or 3 minute there. He has gone 4 or 5 at times. But what he's doing is he's putting these little videos together. There may be a couple of days old or maybe a week old. And you have to look down at the timestamp because I noticed that he did a video recently, but what he was trying to show was what has been going on with the sun over this period of time. So, but anyway, all you have to do is look at the timestamp. It also tells you what satellite he's looking at. So he takes this little MP thing and puts it on his channel. But what it does, it shows in this recent one, this looks like an asteroid storm that went past the satellite that is focused, this particular one, at the sun. But the other thing is, though, that also, and I've been watching these things for years, when Brian and I first started doing videos together, I even took you to a couple of those sites when we shared the screen. I said, y'all need to take a look at this. And it's the LASCO and those other satellites that take a peek at the sun. But anyway, it shows all these, it literally shows a spaceship making a U-turn. I mean, I was like, I even commented to him. I said, his comment was, it seems like some of these, objects are turning by themselves. So all of the folks out there were talking about, well, those are asteroids or those are this or that. Asteroids don't, and comets don't make turns that you can see their vapor trail, and some of these look like angels and some of these actually look like Star Trek type vehicles flying across the near the sun. There's also one picture of a huge object that is probably bigger than Jupiter. It's a lot larger than us, sitting right next to the sun. And you go, wait a minute, is that, hang on. You want to know whether or not UFOs exist. You want to know whether or not there's proof. All you got to do is check out these check out his videos, because he goes through the trouble to go out to this thing, copy the video, and then put it on his channel. I love it because I used to do the same thing, and he's doing it for me and giving me little clips. So I'm like, thumbs up, buddy. I give you my support. And so it sounds like he's in the UK, but I'm not sure. It's only by his accent. But anyway, give him some love. But the other thing is that there's physical proof of whether or not there's anything in our solar system. If you say, well, Dave, where's the proof? Go look at these things for yourself. There is absolute proof that those aren't asteroids. Those aren't meteors. They're not comets. They're making turns. Some of them are following each other. Some of them are going in groups, and some of them appear over here and then come up over here. And you go, what? Because the frames are timed, and so forth. But to the point, there is proof. All we got to do is look at it for what it is. Don't listen to what the scientists, because all they're saying, they call it an anomaly. Yeah, because they don't want to call it a spaceship. But if you look at it, watch it, and see for yourself and go, ooh, let me freeze frame that one for a second. And let me take a look at how many objects there are flying and skirting around our solar system. Do you think for ever since I saw those um, Lasco C2 and all them ones years ago, and I started seeing what I saw, I was like, and plus what I've seen with visually with one spaceship blowing up another almost overhead of the house here, I realized, yes, they're real. Absolutely, they're real. I don't have to have the government or some conspiracy channel to tell me. The evidence is being showed if you go look for it right in front of us. Right in front of us, you know. So the WSO channel for a long time was talking about that these anomalies are stellar cores, and that they're this and that they're that, and you know, they pretty much quieted down about some of this stuff because and I haven't watched them recently, but there hasn't been too many recent videos either, but to the point though. And I used to hang out and check out and see what the other what folks' opinions were. And they kept trying to explain these things by natural phenomena that are going on in outer space, and what is being picked up, excuse me, coffee time, was being picked up by these satellites and these radars and all these other things. And I quite frankly think that it's driven some of these folks mad to the point where, oh shit, there is only one logical solution. They are spaceships. And they are, some of these things are huge. And some of these can back right up to the sun. And there have been a lot of folks over a bunch of years, me included, that have stated, because of what I have seen come out of the sun through these satellite images, great big huge balls of stuff, and you go, what the F was that? Spaceship. It's been said by the aliens and folks for a long time that the stars are portals. In other words, you want to go to another solar system, you go to the star, poof, and I guess you say, well, now I want to go to this star. And somehow, but just go through and watch them yourself, and you'll see some of these things come out of the sun, and you go, what was that? Or the ones you may have seen where these black dots back up to the sun and put out what looks like a little wiggly tail, and it looks like they're draining something off the sun, and then they just disappear. What the hell was that? Yeah, it looks like a giant tadpole, you know? So in this, about this, you say, well, I don't know if any of this is true. It's true. Pay attention. So do I need convincing? No, because the proof is right there in front of me. So you can say, well, that's a bunch of sci-fi. Hang on. Those are current images of the sun. Current images of the sun within the last 2 or 3 days. I think while I read the video that I placed in there, and I'm going to pop it in there again just for the hell of it. But, you know, give this guy some, in my opinion, give this guy some love, because it's like, you know, it would take me fumbling around trying to go find these satellites and those images. He does a really nice, he condenses it. So what he does, I'm sure, is he picks out those sections that he says, ooh, look at all this crap. Let me share this with you. So check out his video, please, and subscribe. He's been around for quite a few years doing what he's been doing, and you can just watch some of his short videos and see for yourself. You can go out to the Lasco videos, and they have archives, and you can go back and watch these little video feeds for yourself in different angstroms, different colors. Some things show up with one, the blue one, the blue colored ones, not so much, versus the red. I mean, but you check out each one of the different colored frequencies that they use to monitor what's going on. And you say to yourself, well, if they've got satellites out there that can do that and can transmit to us in almost real time, then they might probably be able to put, brain images in our head with cell phones without telling us. Because these folks have been monitoring these satellite images and stuff for a long time. Why? Oh, we want to look at the sun. Yeah, sure. They also want to monitor what else is going on. They just don't talk about it. While I read and myself, we watch these, what's going on with the sun and all these anomalies and go, oh, holy crap. Is our solar system being invaded? Don't know, but at times it damn sure looks like there's a lot of stuff out there, and it's huge. I mean, some of these items are as big as the Earth, because what do? They'll put a little picture of the Earth and say, this is how big the Earth is compared to the sun. So there's this little tiny dot over here that's the Earth, and then you compare it to the images that are on there, and you go, that's bigger than the Earth. And it's flying past the sun. And it's changing directions. And you go, wait a minute. So what should I believe in this matter? Well, obviously that they do exist, and probably some of these idiots, and if you've ever listened to Laura Eisenhower, and she's got a YouTube video, and she goes back, to her grandfather, Ike. And he supposedly talked with the aliens and did all those deals way back in the day, right? Area 51 and out in the desert. And there's a lot of strange stuff. But as an Eisenhower, she was contacted by several people in the government and stuff over the years to become part of the Mars program, bunch of stuff. She has a lot of insider information, if you will. And I trust her information, because one of the things that bothers her is that so many people have lied to her. And because her grandfather was president, she's like, they want to put a lot of this stuff on me, and I'm just not going to have it. If I want to know the truth for myself. But at the same time, but anyway, so you should check out Laura Eisenhower also, because these folks are all talking about similar things, and they're all related to us. And they are factions that want to have mass meditations, that are working to try to change the planet. And, I support these folks. I hang out, I listen, pay attention, what kind of extra news that I'm not picking up anywhere else. And then you come to find out that, oh my God, some of this information has honestly been out there for a long time. And there are a lot of people who have been trying to tell us about it and to keep us up to date with it. So with that said, but anyway, so Brian, time we are, got to put the glasses on. It's a little bit too small. Time we remember our divinity and abilities. The second we believe in our abilities is the second we will move on as a soul. Yes, well, there's a lot that I do understand, Brian, but what if they try to interfere between now and my death as the physical body? I'm a little concerned about that. I'm not concerned about what's going to happen on the other side, because I feel confident no matter what they try to do to me, I'm still going to be a spiritual being on the other side. Delaney says, I've been posting vids since 2012, and I have been active since October 3rd of 2013, by the way. Deborah Truex, hi, Hawkeye, I know I missed a lot, but I can listen. Thank you, Deborah Truex. Scratch, hi there, Sarah. Black Magic, and yes, there are these factions, Luciferian, Saint, whatever you want to call them, the opposite side. They are using sigils and signs and things, and we We can see them in logos and company logos and so forth. And there is magic in that they're trying to put upon us. And once we realize, well, this business is owned by a magician. Okay, how much business will I give them? Well, they have something I really need to buy. But instead of buying groceries and a bunch of other stuff, I'm only going to buy that one item because, damn it, I can't find it anywhere else easily. So I submit, if you will, up to a point, but then, like, I can't remember the last time I was in a Walmart. I just, I made up my mind years ago that them folks was just not doing us right, and they weren't doing America right, and I quit giving them my business. And I counted up over a couple of months several years ago where I was spending $200 a month every month with Walmart. So, over in 10 months, that's $2,000, and it's like, what? So, $2,400 a year I was given to Walmart. And, and sometimes more. I'm just saying that I know that I was spending $200 a month at Walmart for different things, camping stuff, fishing supplies, whatever. But I was spending that money at Walmart. And I realized, wait a minute, as a consumer, as a person, and seeing what Walmart was doing back in those days, I said, I'm not going to be a part of this. I will only go if I can't find what I want anywhere else. And then I realized that, wait a minute, some of those things that I bought at Walmart, I found other sources, or that I didn't really need them. I wanted them, but I didn't need them. So I haven't been to Walmart in a long time. I mean, like a year kind of thing. I mean, so I choose who I spend my money with. I choose who I wish to do business with. As much as I possibly can. So give them a noogie and we will remember for 1,000 incarnations. You'll kick their butt for me? Thank you, Brian. Travis, I got a magic channel from you. Dominic, I don't believe that the soul dies, because otherwise, how are we reincarnated? And you may not believe in reincarnation, but there's too much proof in that it does. But in this idea, though, that I believe I believe my spirit has been on different worlds, different planets, different reincarnations. I could have been a 40-foot tall being on another planet. I mean, I'm just saying. And so these total experiences that are locked up in my Akashic record, in my storage unit somewhere out there in the cloud, that's who my reincarnation was. And that when I get back to the other side, I will remember all these things. Edgar Cayce talked about this a long time ago, and a lot of people don't listen to what Edgar Cayce had to say, but there are a lot of Southerners down here who strict Baptist and Southern Baptist, but they believed in Edgar Cayce. It's just like, what? But Edgar was a Christian. So, and Edgar talked about these things. And even though they were a little leery of the Atlantis and dreams and stuff, his cures and salves and stuff, and I've used many of his concoctions over the years, and I'm here to tell you, they work. And so changing your diet and changing your habits and adding this to your diet or that or changes, have cured people. And the Southerners, when I moved up here from Tampa, there were more people down here in the South, Southern Baptist, who knew who Edgar Cayce was than the people in Tampa who were supposed to be these enlightened minds. And I found that to be like absolutely strange, but fantastic. And I learned from some of these old timers when I first moved up here in the 70s to South Georgia. And they taught me some of these old home remedies. Well, where'd you get this? Well, we heard about Edgar Cayce and he had this remedy and we've been passing it around. What? All you Southern Baptists know? Yeah, Edgar Cayce. Really? You know about Edgar? Well, how do you know about Edgar, Dave? Well, because I was learning about really. So the ARE, the Advanced Research on Enlightenment in um, uh, Virginia Beach, Virginia. So anyway, you want to learn about some stuff. You want to learn about Casey. There are books out there. I would suggest if you haven't heard and understood some of the things that Casey taught, then you should, because it will give you background information about your soul before you entered this body. It will give you information that you might not otherwise have received. It may be discussed by other channels, but in reading how Edgar discussed it in many of his different sleep times, that the body exists, and then there is the corporeal, but that when but they're both a part of us. So in remote viewing, what Edgar was doing was remote viewing. That's basically what it was. But in that remote viewing, he was asked about Atlantis, and he came up with some of these Lemuria, all kinds of stuff. So if you want to get some background, and because I've used some of Edgar's, I don't want to call them potions, but remedies, I got to say, right on, And from my own experiences and from my own understanding, I was glad I learned about Edgar all those years ago, back in the late 60s, early 70s, because it helped me to develop a sense of where my spirituality was. When I understood, when Casey talked about our soul spirits and and that we have the choice, we've got a month or two or whatever to go into the body and accept or reject. Get this, accept or reject what our soul journey is going to be into this reincarnation. And there were certain things that just made sense to me all them years ago, 50 years ago. And so this has been knowledge that as I continue to develop my spiritualness, that's always been, I've known this nugget of information that I believe in my core. So where there are times where I've doubted and everything, I've always been able to go back to that. Well, wait a minute, we had a contract, and I accepted this mission, and maybe it is mission impossible, and this tape will self-destruct. But the idea, though, that somehow some of this knowledge is just now coming out. I mean, Dolores Cannon, I've read some of her books. In fact, I found a couple of books by accident that a friend of mine gave me, and they were stuck on a bookshelf. Anyway, and I was like, I remember reading this. And so there are things that Dolores Cannon has discussed, and there are things that this person has discussed. There are things that I'm discussing that Edgar and Dolores Cannon both discussed. So is what I'm discussing just my idea? No, it's more of a feeling and a spiritual philosophy, if you will, in that we are all members of the League of Like-Minded Beings. We are all members of our soul tribe, but the cosmic soul tribe. And the more we accept it and use that, the better off we're going to be. Yeah. Now, the contention has been, why did Atlantis sink and so forth? And basically, space beings have been around for a long time. And some of them Atlantean folk had got a little bit too big for their breeches. And some folks said, we just going to put a stop to that shit and shut them down. And you think about the days of the Egyptians. Now, why did the Egyptians just pull out? Why, if the pyramids were covered with all these shiny rocks and everything, what came about that they just stopped doing what they're doing? You know what I mean? and all of a sudden it just quit. There's evidence out there in the sands of Africa and so forth of civilizations that have just been literally blasted from this earth. There are different colored rocks and things that can only happen with high energy weapons. So whatever there was going on over there in Egypt and stuff, and in that general area, there was a cosmic war. And those might say, well, God smote them. Well, somebody did, because there's a lot of evidence of destruction, and it wasn't just a storm. You know what I'm saying? And so, and why did they dismantle the pyramids? Nobody really asked that. Well, they wanted to use it to build the city. Okay. But why did they stop? What happened? Nobody has ever said, well, it just quit. Why? Who intervened? Who said, tear that shit down? You know, who said dismantle the pyramids? Who said, how many folks have discussed that? They all want to talk about what they were and who built them and how, but why was it shut down? Who shut it down? Who stopped the civilization? Who started dismantling the pyramids? Well, it was grave robbers. I've not been to the pyramids, but I've seen pictures with people standing next to them. They just didn't arbitrarily to decide to take the damn things down. It was a lot of work to put them up. So who got paid to dismantle the pyramids? Ain't nobody talking about that, or how they dismantle, it was grave robbers. And do you know how big those things are? Do you know how many thousands of tons of rock that was removed? Okay, I believe that some of it has been used. I get that. But who started the idea? Take them some bitches down. Ain't nobody, I have not heard anyone talk about that. Just saying. In some of the things that I see, I wonder if people are asking the correct questions. Well, how were the pyramids built? Well, they did it. There were giants in those days. Well, and not necessarily the Nephilim. And there's evidence that has recently come out that the reason they went into and had the Iraq War was to find the tomb of the king of the Nephilims and to retrieve in Kandahar, the Kandahar giant. They claim that there was videos that they actually sent like a SEAL team in there, and there was this huge monster of a giant that was protecting it. Guess where? In the Kandahar Mountains and so forth. And here just recently that they were like, well, why'd you go in here? Well, they wanted the tomb of, I can't remember his name, but he was supposedly one of the Nephilim. Now, why would they want that? DNA, to see if there was any viable DNA. Why? Because they want to bring giants back. There's already proof. Putin has even said it. There are people over in Europe that have discussed these super soldiers. You can shoot them. You can throw hand grenades at them, and they just keep coming. And you go, well, that's the super soldier. Well, there, seems to be a lot of evidence with DNA stuff and planning, who knows, nanobots, that are turning these people into superhuman type beings. Where all these Agent X and all these X-Files, not just the X-Files, but all these mutants, all these TV shows that have to do with mutants and people getting these powers, and you take this pill and you get this power. And, I think one of the things that nobody wishes to discuss is that if you had a couple of 20 or 30 foot giants who are going to be muscular, big as hell, don't you think if they could help build the pyramids with all this dragon and all this other stuff that doesn't prove true to me? I'm sorry, the amount of sand that they would have had to move to build the ramps, the stability of those ramps and how they needed to pack them in order to move those rocks. I have tried to push my truck up a slight incline. I'm here with wheels, and you want to tell me they drug these things? Oh, no, they didn't. But does anybody bring up the idea that maybe giants helped to build those structures? Well, I don't know. It seems as feasible as a bunch of slaves dragging rocks up a frickin' ramp. Do you know how many thousands, millions of tons of sand that it would take to build the ramps that these folks are discussing? I just, no, no. I mean, you would have to have the volume of sand for the ramp as damn near as much as one whole side of the pyramid. Oh, well, how they move the rocks, and they did this, and they had these big winds. What about a couple of big ass giants who just kind of walked them into place and set them there? Well, I don't know. That seems a little far fetched. Well, you're trying to tell me a bunch of slaves drug this rock up a hill that they made. How'd they make the ramp? How did they, the sand is hard to compact. How did they compact this? I'm sorry. None of it makes sense. Anyway, what's that got to do with today? Because there are sciences, there is that secret science of things. Archaeology. Why did they want the Kandahar giant? Why recently it has been put out that's one of the reasons why they went over there. They wanted the tomb moved, one of them. What? Why? Well, they wanted, why did they want DNA samples? They want to create these buggers. Could you imagine a 12-foot giant? Now, I watched L.A. Marzulli, and he was in, I watched his video the other day, and check out L.A. Marzulli. He talks about a lot of stuff too, but he can't get away from the God thing. He even said, well, if God comes in a spaceship, I'm not going to believe it. Well, but what if, Jesus really was an ET? What if he is? And you say, well, if they come in with, UFOs and stuff. Now, I understand there is a faction that's going to try to get us to believe that they are the saviors, just like in V, and also like in Gene Roddenberry's Earth, the final conflict. And I've been recently rewatching that series, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, here are these people that come in and want peace. And so what do? They bring in medical beds and cures and cheap, efficient power sources and ways to, plant and do this and all that. And you think to yourself, hang on here. Gene Roddenberry, for some reason, had a lot of stuff going on. And in fact, in Cairo, just south of me, there is the Roddenberry library. And Gene Roddenberry is part of the family of the Roddenberrys down here in the South, which is interesting, coincidental. But Roddenberry's pickles, they had big, I don't know if they still do pickles, I think, but the big vats and all, big business down there, plus some other stuff. But anyway, so, but in this, I wonder sometimes, especially in watching Earth, the Final Conflict, because they're not talking about Star Trek. They're not talking about somewhere else. He's talking about here. He's talking about beings showing up and trying to be these benevolent beings when they're actually, they've got a whole nefarious kind of agenda behind them. And it's all about the control of humanity and how they're going to do these things and how they have these implants that make them special to these folks, and it's like, wait a minute, it oddly sounds like nanobots and high frequencies. So are they already here? Was Gene Roddenberry on the money with that one? Earth, the Final Conflict. If you haven't seen the series, I just, if you're bored, go check it out, because there's some interesting correlations that are going on now that are in those series. I'm just saying. And so, have they been showing us? Have they been telling us? I think the information's been around us all the time. I'm typing in the dark. Good for you, Dominic. I couldn't. I think if people, with the help of space people, how else would they know where the exact center of landmass would be if not seen from space? Thank you, Dominic. And also, some of these maps back in, I mean, as a sort of a part-time cartographer, I've always, loved maps. I think in a previous incarnation I was a map maker, because I'm just, I wanted to be a surveyor and learn surveying and all that. Anyway, and Robert E. Lee, who I could very well be related to, was a surveyor before he was a general. He surveyed a lot of places out west, and so. But anyway, uh, in that remark, I mean that it feels like surveying and map making type thing is in my blood. But besides that, there are times when some of the maps that were done all those years ago are so freaking accurate. Even today, you go, they had to have been in a balloon or something to see, and the accuracy of where this inlet is with Florida, where this bay was, and how deep it was. I mean, they've got records going back, centuries that you go, now, them folks was good, but some bitch, you know. Did some of these guys did they have help from above, literally? Because some of these maps are fantastical. You got to wonder. And some of the ancient maps, you really got to wonder. So it's like, where did they get this information from? They're too accurate. You know what I mean? Just whoa. But anyway, so with that, those folks who try to, explain these phenomena in some other way, we have to bring in the ET part of it. We just do, because there are certain things that just don't make any sense. But they make perfect sense if there were giants, and there's proof that there was. All the Hopi and many of the indigenous native peoples. And guess what? Here's an interesting point, and I can't believe it's over 2 hours again. An interesting point that was brought up, and I mentioned this the other night in one of my videos. I said, they were doing these things to the First Nations people. The Spanish and the French and the English primarily, came over. They basically wanted to decimate the native populations so that their factions could move in. And so the Catholic Church very seriously did a bang up job to try to make sure that all indigenous races, peoples, and their faith was decimated. I mean, in the Native Americans, in the South Americans, it doesn't matter. Anywhere that the Spanish conquistadors went, they killed people in the name of God, carrying a cross. So why? They wanted to kill the religion of the peoples. They wanted to say, you must believe in this one or we're going to kill you. And they did. And so it's either convert or die. So even in the native communities here in North America, they silently kept their stories. They silently recited prayers. They silently danced. And back when they did the ghost dance, they were so afraid of the ghost dance. That's sort of what prompted Wounded Knee, in that the idea that these people were dancing. Why? They were dancing for the ghosts of their relatives that had already died to come back to help return the land to the peoples, not to the governments, not to the agents, not to the oligarchs, but back to the peoples. And when they found out about the ghost dance, the government shut them down, killed some of them, murdered them, and said, you will not do this anymore. They didn't understand, but they knew the Indians were dancing because why? Well, it's a ghost dance, and they want to take America back over. They want the land returned to them. Oh, hell no. Now, you either shut up, quit dancing, or you're dead. Bam. Ended that, right? I haven't seen your ghost dance. Um, Yeah, the Capimira, there's a lot of stuff on Mars. There's a lot of stuff on the moon. And yes, people say, well, have you seen it? Well, I haven't seen it, no, but I've seen enough proof to know that there's stuff on those planets. I've seen with my own telescope, okay, I've seen spaceships go across the face of the moon with my own eyes. Now, I don't have any camera attachment to mine or anything, but when you see something like that for yourself, whatever anybody says, well, I don't believe in UFOs. There aren't any UFOs on the moon. Well, I've seen them fly across over here. They've been on some of the other, you've seen some of the moon missions where, there are spacecraft that, disappear or fly below, So the thing is that, but when you see it for yourself, you go, oh shit. I'm sorry. No matter what anybody else tells you, you've seen it with your own two eyes. And whether they believe you or not, you believe you. You know what you saw. And so it's like, I've been trying to convince other people. It's like, well, if you just don't, but if you saw it with your naked eye and you went, son of a bitch, there was 3 UFOs that just went across the screen on my telescope. What the hell? Now do you believe? Well, now you might believe that there's something going on the dark side of the moon. Well, I don't know, but well, you just saw 3 spaceships, right? Yeah. Where'd you think they come from? I don't know. Maybe they came from the dark side of the moon, where we can't see. Uh, hadn't thought of that. Duh. But so can something be hiding on the other side of the moon that we can't see? Oh, hell yeah. Some of the things. Now, I've sort of talked about this, but since we're on this subject. And some of you have asked me questions about this, and they're legitimate. Now, I worked in theater, okay? I've set lights for 50 shows. I'm not lying. Because I was the light and sound man for Thomasville on Stage Community Theater for 2 years in a row as a paid employee. But I worked and put other shows together, and we'd do 4 or 5 shows a year at least, plus some things in between. So it was my responsibility to help with the sound and set the lights and work the board and that kind of thing. So, but in that, so I've learned about lighting and how shadows react. Now there's stuff out in space that I've seen, and it's like, when the sun shines down and there are shadows, the light is segmented, and it's like there's a great big grate up there in the sky that the light is actually passing through. I believe they've got a lens up there. Okay. I absolutely do. How it is, like a Fresnel lens or something like that. But at times, especially at sunset, you see these the light rays are coming through, but they're above the clouds. Now, where are those shadows coming from? Something is between us and the sun. Where it is, how it is, I'm not quite sure, but there's a lot of evidence in some of these Lasco and some of these other videos and things. And WSO has put some of those out there on his YouTube channel. And they question what these things are. And I'm saying, we ought to know. If you can see these planet-sized objects next to the sun, and you want to know whether or not there's something between us and the sun that's casting a shadow, my answer would be, of course. Now, what it is, I think it's a lens. Now, my personal opinion and sort of, my higher self question, like, hey guys, what the hell is that? They're trying to filter out some of these really harsh rays that are coming in. And by the way, I noticed something, BP Earthwatch and some other channels, but discussed that we had a really big wave of energy come in just yesterday, day before, and that the solar winds, went from down here to 350 to like 700 in like just almost immediately. And so I went outside tonight and to check my stars and things and stuff, and I noticed that Saturn and Jupiter we're already way down in the southwest. And I'm going, wait a minute, it's not 11 o'clock yet. I mean, and I was like, it's really far down. And then I noticed that Mars is overhead already. And I'm thinking to myself, no, bear with me on this. If we get hit with a solar wind, and my point to this is that it seems like Jupiter and Saturn and Mars are up. The two went down earlier than they should, and that Mars was up sooner. Now, what if we got hit with a solar wind that's like 500,000 miles an hour, more than we're used to, and it hits the Earth? Now, I'm sure some of you have seen, it used to amaze me as a kid. They would have this fan and they'd put a beach ball at a certain point away from the fan, and the beach ball would just sit there and float. It wouldn't fall and it wouldn't blow away. It just sat there on those currents of air from the fan, and it just sat there and bobbed up and down. You may have seen those. So in that thought, I wonder sometimes if there isn't something between us and them. But if you can suspend a ball in like that, I've noticed in playing around with certain things in my own life that we used to fool around with stuff with air pressure. So if you take a squirrel cage fan, which is like a lot of them are in air conditioners and stuff. Anyway, they're not just the blade fans, but they've got a bunch of fans that looks like a squirrel cage. Okay, so here's the point. If you hit a squirrel cage fan in the right angle with an airstream, you can make that thing just go, it'll go really fast. It seems like it'll go faster than the air that's actually pushing it. And so, but you have to hit that spot. You have to hit it just right. Otherwise, it won't turn at all, or it'll turn real slow. But if you get that air hit just right across that fan, it's going to spin like a mama. Okay, why did I bring that up? What if the solar energy, it's the solar energy, not this cosmic wave, but all the instruments have picked it up. What if it hit us in such a way that it actually sped the Earth up by an hour and a half? And you go, wait a minute, I don't know. Is that? Well, we went from 3,500 miles per hour to 75. Oh, actually, it was million or something. Anyway, 7,500,000 miles per hour versus 350. So it went up 400,000 miles per hour in like a few hours. And then the big earthquake in Alaska. Now, his point of view on BP Earthwatch is that, there is a correlation between what's happening on the sun and some of the stuff that's happening on the earth. I agree. Now, is it because God's doing it? I got to stay out of that one. But I think it's natural things. But I do think that there are folks in the universe who think they're gods who are mucking with us. I do believe that. So, but anyway, but tonight in my observations, I was like, Jupiter should not be down that far. Mars should not be up yet. It's an hour or so early. So could the solar wind have actually sped the rotation of the Earth if it hit us in the right configuration? Of course, it's theoretical. But I'm going to go check tomorrow night and see where Jupiter and Mars is at the time and see if there's a time differential. We've all noticed the Earth wobble thing, but this solar wind and going outside tonight, going, where the fuck is Jupiter? Seriously, where the fuck is Jupiter? Holy crap! It's down in the trees. What's it doing over there? Did the Earth speed up? Now I've had this issue before. My house is like a sundial. And for a year and a half, I had a chart in the window. And at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock during the daytime, I would check where it was on my chart. And I would get sometimes as much as an hour off over the course of 2 days. And I was trying to tell people, listen, I think I even did a video about it or two way back in the day. But I was like, it's 2 o'clock. And on my little chart where it's been 2 o'clock for the last week, it's now 1 o'clock by my sundial. Now, tomorrow, the next day, it'll be 3 o'clock on the sundial, but the clock will say 2 o'clock. You know, wait a minute. So my sundial, which is my house, and my little chart there, I would get a fluctuation of at least 30 minutes almost every day. So the sundial was not staying with the same time as my clock. And I wouldn't, one of the reasons why I quit, you know, changing my clock up and back is because I wanted a stable, my clock says 2 o'clock, not Eastern Daylight Time. My clock says 2. What does my house say? And it was off extreme. There was one time it was off. The sundial said the sun should have been up, and it showed like 8:30 in the morning, and the clock said 10. And I was like, this can't be. And all day long, I watched it every hour. And by the end of the day, we had picked up 30 minutes compared to my other calculations over other days and weeks and months. So in a day's time, we were down an hour and a half. The sun was late coming up. And then by the end of the day, it picked up 30 minutes. But it was consistently late all through the day until towards the end. And then all of a sudden, it was like only 30 minutes left. And I was like, ain't that strange? So can the Earth actually speed up and slow down? Well, if we get a change in energy coming from the sun, the solar wind, and it increases in speed by almost 500,000 miles per hour in the course of a few hours, wouldn't you expect something to happen? I mean, it seems to me there's more, you know, information that would suggest something should happen. Now, whether or not it speeds up the Earth or not, but I'm just saying, you know, we used to play with air and balls and things and stuff all the time. So it is possible physically to have an effect with air streams and certain, just saying, maybe it's possible. But with my own calculations and the charts that I have made with the house, and the house doesn't move, to my knowledge, that, you know, things are fluctuating on a day-to-day basis. Now, as I bring this up, I need to get my chart back out because now I've got to, as a passive solar house in the summertime, the sun does not shine in the windows. But now that it's October, it started in September. But now that it's October, I'm getting good sunshine through my southern windows, and it's time for me to bring my chart out and see what's going on compared to other years. I used colored pencils, and then I would write down on the chart what the date was and the time. So if this red dot, you know, today, and 2 o'clock supposed to be here, but today it shows that it's actually closer to 3 o'clock, I would use a red pencil or a green pencil, and I would write the date on it, you know, and that what time it was. So I have a living record on this chart. But anyway, I'm crazy that way. But I was seeing these things, and the only way that I could document it was by making this chart. And when I showed it to other people, they said, you're full of shit. The sun can't be doing that. The planet can't be wobbling. And I was like, then how do you explain all these other incidents? I go outside every night. Well, almost. And I'm always looking at the stars. And you're trying to tell me, oh, by the way, we're supposed to have a meteor storm early this morning. So since y'all are already up, they say go outside and watch. We've got some cloud cover, but I am going to try to stay up and go outside and see what's going on with the meteor shower. So, but anyway, my friends, 2.5 hours I've been at this, but I'm hoping that I have given you some information you may not have heard before, or maybe confirmation that yes, me and a bunch of other folks have heard this kind of stuff before. Yes, it sounds like a sci-fi story, But when you do some digging and you do some checking, there are reliable people out there that I still trust that are giving information, and they're trying to tell us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So go check out the Dark Journalist, links in the thing. Please go out and subscribe to Wire I Read and see what's going on in our solar system. Because a lot of us have been monitoring this for a long time, and it will prove to you within a shadow of a doubt. Holy crap. I don't need to videotape anything, and not to say you can't, but are there spaceships out there? Oh, yeah. How do you know? Look at, check these out. See for yourself. And you can go to the site and check out the LASCO cameras and all. You can look for yourself. Wire I Read does a really nice job of taking clips to give you some of the most recent activity. It's a shortcut, And so in that, it saves me time in going out and looking for myself. He does this. This is his thing. But he gives us 2 or 3 minutes and a brief short peek of like, here's the recent activity in the last few days. And then you can tell yourself, oh my God. Now, are all these folks the bad guys? No. And there are a lot of good folks out there that are trying to help us out on this planet. So we need to continue with our good vibes and let them folks know up yonder, and the bad guys too, we do not accept your chaos. We will not accept what you propose for us. But I will accept and receive the knowledge and the healing from the universe so that I can stop you folk, whoever you are, that have got this madman mentality, and that you've already got control over us. But the next line is that they want to do something really nefarious. Can we stop them? I personally, I think we can, because we've already proven that the human being is very adept and resilient. And they've been trying for thousands of years to get rid of a bunch of us. They can't start a war, haven't been able to start a war yet. That was like World War II or whatever. And nobody wants to drop the bomb and start that war. In fact, Putin has even said that he wants to go ahead and sign an agreement about nuclear non-proliferation before the charter runs out, before the treaty runs out. He wants to renegotiate it now. It was on RT at recent. So Putin, whether those folks want to, he's a good guy, bad guy, oh, them Russians are at it again. Give me a break. But so, they're blaming this Biden gate thing on the Russians. Well, he was over in the Ukraine. Kind of Russian-y, but not really. But that, that he may have received money from the mayor of Moscow. Well, that's not Putin, We got a lot of crooked, politicians here in the United States. Just look at Nancy Pelosi and wonder how in the hell she's still where she's at. Just, So there are lots of crazy people and crazy stuff going on all across the planet in different places that we haven't heard about. So if we think we're the only ones, nah. But again, we're not the only ones who are seeing what's going on, because there's a rebellion going on over the masks in Europe, in China, in South America. These folks, and they don't know about the NanoBot, but these folks still don't want it. They're still aware enough to know that this is stupid. Where is it going to go from here? Let's not get our panties in a knot, and let's try to keep a level head. The more information we have, the better we are armed with information as to what these clowns might be up to, or quite possibly are up to. The better we are to be able to tell other folks they're deceiving you. Let's not be led down that path. Let's see if we can give you information to say, hey, wait, you sure you want to take that? Are you sure you want to go in and get your little orange badge? Just saying. So, my friends, I'll do a card reading another time. I'm tired and my got a leg cramp and a butt cramp, and I don't want to make this any longer than it is, because if I start doing card readings now, oh my God, it'll go on forever. So I want to keep it here at this. My friends, I really, really do appreciate you. Several of you sent some really nice compliments and comments. I thank you all dearly. I do. The video that I did yesterday, I will say this at the end of this video. I meditated and thought about the video that I did yesterday about deceit is everywhere. And from comments and my own meditation, and I was seriously like, should I leave that video up, or should I just leave it as, you know, for those who were in the live chat yesterday, that okay, the information's out there and maybe I should just, you know, delete the video. And the answer that came back was no, don't delete the video. Don't turn it off. Because my only apology in this, and I mean this with my heart, is the fact that I had to do the video. And in my spiritual job here, and supposedly happen to be the camp counselor or the grown-up in the room, as I described, that my apology is that I hated to do it because those folks have turned away from the true light, and that to take anyone with them, it's my responsibility and my duty to have to stand up and say something, and to warn people that there are people that we have been loyal to that may be telling us a lie all along and dragging us in. So my apology is not that I made the video. My apology is that I had to make the video. It was necessary. And I'm sorry I had to do it, but it had to be done. And many of you remarked and sent comments, and I thank you. And you all said this had to be spoken about. Other people have been feeling that. And of all the things to reiterate a little bit without going into that anymore, is that, and it's been brought up from other places, that if you feel in your gut that something ain't right, follow your damned intuition, for God's sakes. Even Gerald Celente brought this up in an interview that I watched a couple of days ago. He was like, people aren't following their own instincts. You know, it's like they don't have any instinct. They don't have any self-control. They just, Well, where's your common sense? And where is that instinct that people used to just have, you know? And so you want to talk to your higher self? Listen to your stomach. So, my friends, thank you. I appreciate what you do. Share the information as you see fit. I love you all. I do. And I will do a card reading again. Scratch, I also caught him faking an orb video he shot from a hotel in Vegas. We still talking about the same person? Yeah, okay. Life sucks sometimes. Sorry doesn't cut it, and thank you dearly. Don't know if that was towards me or whatever, but you know, Brandy says, hi, Brandy. We're writing this story. It will be beautiful. You know, I agree with that, except, oh, and hey, hi, by Jamie. You know, Brandy, what we wish and what some of these other folks who have a lot of technology that we just don't have, you know, we have to consider that, you know, if they want to blow up the planet, there ain't a whole lot we can do about it, but we can have our spiritual shit together in case anything like that does. Now, can we all pray against it? Can we all? Yes. But if there's some higher being out there with a spaceship the size of Jupiter, and they want to and they want to do something to us, all the freaking praying in the world ain't going to do us any good. You know what I mean? We have to understand that is a possibility. Now there are a lot of folks working against it. So, but is it possible? Slightly, but yes. Is it more possible that they're going to try to control us with brain waves and telephones and wireless? Oh, they're already there with that. You can already see people who walk down the street, if they're walking down the street anymore, can't raise their heads up. They can't get their face out of their cell phones. The zombieism has already started, whether the nanobots are there or not, from the sci-fi thriller that I discussed earlier in this video. But we have to consider everything I discussed at the beginning of this video is already present. It's already going on. Sci-fi, it's reality. Where do we want to take it? We disagree with them. We tell them no. How far is that going to get us? I'm not sure. I'm going to continue to hope and pray for a better tomorrow. That's the best that I can hope for, and hope that it makes a difference. By Jamie says, John Leonard Walson is a legend with a telescope. He has footage of winged draconians at Goodwood Airfield taken from 2 miles away. Yes, there are a lot of people who are doing a lot of good things with videos and stuff. And, you know, I've done videos with pictures of orbs and things in them. I did a video when there was an orb that literally there were 2 orbs that went by the camera while I was doing the live stream. And people were like, what? Yeah. So the proof that I need shows up when it needs to, I guess. But that, you know, God strike me dead if I tried to put anything fake out there. I have to vet things. There are some of these things I've been wanting to talk about for a while, but I didn't quite seem to have enough information, sort of like this topic for discussion now. You know, there's already enough fear and stuff going on, but at the same point, now that there's like current information on some of these things, we got to wonder, maybe we should really pay more attention. We already are, but wait a minute. Let's continue to think about what these folks are already working on. So it's not like, well, they could do it. They're working on it. Brandy says, I was watching the meteor shower 2 nights ago, but coyotes scared me. Yeah, coyotes will do it. Or reminders to mow your lawn, says Brian. Yeah. I'm in a lot of DJs chats. Okay. I haven't been keeping up with the Teresa, night, folks. Yeah, I'm fixing to go night. No way green orbs are pets that have passed on. Brian. Yeah, okay. Scratch, delete the spaces, Brandy. HTTP, what? Something. All right. So anyway, keep up the good work. Keep sharing those, folks. And there are people out there who are telling the truth. And a last plug for some of these folks that my phone contract's up tomorrow. I'm getting rid of my phone. I'm done with their BS. Yeah, I got a phone, and if I need to, you know, to buy it when I will, but not at the moment. Dominic has a coyote issues big time. Oh, Chicago has? Chicago has a coyote issue. Wow, that's interesting. Now, I would expect feral dogs. Now, there are folks who will say that they hear coyotes when actually, because we have wild dog packs, and I'm about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, you can go outside, and if you listen hard enough, somewhere off in the distance, you can hear coyotes. That was your video, Scratch? I got you. In a city. Wow. Yeah. But a lot of people, you know, talk about they colonize thousands out there. Oh, my God. But coyotes, there are farmers around here that, have bounties on coyotes. There's a family of foxes that live really close to the house. A young fox is right out front in the yard just the other day, and Duggar went about crazy chasing him. I had to let him out. He was going to go through the window. It was nuts. But anyway, so trafficking or canine. I thought seeing a fox in a town was bad. Not necessarily, you know. And they're sly little critters. Let me tell you, they can sneak around. And the fact that I did a video about a year or so ago when they were eating my chickens, and I literally hit one in the rear end with my bow and arrow with the arrow from my bow and arrow, which I was surprised I hit him on the run. But anyway, so my friends, take care, be careful, and sometimes a coyote is just a wild dog, and there are lots of wild dogs, and people will claim that they're coyotes, and a coyote is a coyote, okay, not a feral dog. Just saying. And so, that's a coyote. It's a feral dog. No, it's not. It's a coyote because why? Well, because he's wild and he's running through the woods. And yeah, but that's a dog, not a coyote. They're canines, but not the same. So, but there was a big argument about that years ago, and people still set traps out for coyotes and foxes. And one thing to note is that dogs don't do this, but a coyote and a fox will do this. A fox will go out of their way. I thought it was crazy until I went with a licensed trapper around here. He would set his traps on or near an ant bed. And I'm like, what are you doing? He said, because they can't resist walking through an ant bed. And I'm like, what? They're fire ants. And he goes, yeah, they just, for whatever reason, they will step on them. And I've noticed around here ant piles that'll have paw prints in them. And I'm like, what the hell? But I remember back because I literally went out a couple of days on this gentleman's farm and help him get traps, set traps, retrieve them, and watch. And he was like, see there, look, see, he said, there was a fox that had, succumbed to, even though it was just his leg, but the ants had got him because he was, guess where, in an ant pile. And I was like, what? So they weren't paying him for the pelts. They were paying him per fox for getting in their chickens and livestock and anyway. But, so there are folks around here that will pay a bounty on that. But anyway, but just saying. So if you got an ant bed around and you think there's been a dog won't walk through an ant bed, but a fox and or a coyote will. I know foxes more because I see them more than I do coyotes, but I do know that coyotes exist around here and that wild dogs don't do the same things that a true coyote will. Just a little lesson there. So my friend, they wanted my meat last month, but I outsmarted them. Good. Yeah. Yeah, there are ways to get rid of them. But anyway, my love to you and cosmic hugs to all of you. Send good energy to your friends and neighbors. We surely need it at this time. So closing this out, I continue to pray that each and every day, each and every one of you will learn to accept, receive, and to share the knowledge and the healing and the wisdom and the blessings from the universe. And as always, I continue to pray that each and every one of you, your friends, your family, all of your relatives, and all of your relations, past, present, and to come, will learn to accept, receive, and to share the healing, the knowledge, the wisdom, and the blessings from the universe. And as that law of three, I continue to pray that each and every one of you will continue to accept, receive, and to share the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the blessings from the universe, and that you continue to reject the chaos that is around us, Let's turn the chaos into prayers. Now that we are aware more of what they're up to, we can send our prayers out specifically to stop their crazy asses from fulfilling their prophecies that they want us to believe. There is a better way, and we're going to figure it out one way or the other. So, Travis, thank you. Knight, Scratch, Dominic, and I don't know who else is hanging out, listening in the background. I love you all. Thank you for what you do. Call me crazy is acceptable. Peace, beautiful beings. Thank you. Crazy? We're all a little crazy, because otherwise, why would we have put up with these other insane people as long as we have? So, blessings to you all. And as always, TTFN from South Georgia. Be safe, be kind, be sweet, and we hopefully will see you soon. Night, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you may be.